Hello and welcome to today's session. Let's go through, we'll start out with a top-down approach. I'm on TradingView and I'm looking at the desktop of market review. This has got our trend condition, this has got our momentum zones and the Fibonacci snap tool, as well as the dual charting. And again, just as a reminder, the Discord location, let me come back here. We'll start out at the start page. The Discord location is, you think of it as your login location to get the information or to where the information is housed. We've got methodology, you've got indicators, you've got chart layouts, you've got screens, you've got trade ideas, you've got morning updates, you've got the trainings that I'm doing right now. When I'm finished with that, that'll be posted right here so that you can review that. All the information that you're going to be reviewing is housed here, but typically you'll click on a link inside of this location. It's going to take you out. Obviously, if I click this, it'll take me out to YouTube. If I click on one of these other links, it's going to take me out to the articles page. If I click on the indicators, it's going to take me out to TradingView. So inside of Discord, nothing is happening. There's no data inside of Discord for the most part. In the strategies area, in the daily updates, we do have information that's here on our daily picks. That is an upgrade for as we go in and we go through those. We spend a lot of time on portfolio management. It's the wheel methodology that is there. That's the only place where you will get it. But even there, you're going to click on that to get out to TradingView and to get out to some of these other things that you may be utilizing. So inside of Discord is not where the application is not where the information is. It's just housing, it's just organizing everything so that we can log in, we can click it, we can know what's here, we can have a starting point, and then from there, it takes us out to some of the other tools like TradingView. So I've had a few questions on that, on saying I'm clicking on screens and I'm clicking on new buys and there's no scans there. Well, it's because they're not here. They're out on TradingView, and when you click on this screening tool here, then you've got to set those up. Okay, so it'll take you 5 minutes to do that. I've got the docs here, the Google Docs, which have the information on those. So for example, the on-screen chart, you click on that Google Doc and it's going to, actually let me go back and do this other one here, because that's the one, well, we're using them both, but we'll start out here with this muscle stock new Google Doc. You've got the information here. This is now telling you the settings that you need to have when you go out into the TradingView software, and then you start with all of these. And again, there's lots of training. The training videos are right here. So if you're not familiar with what you're looking at, then make sure you go back and utilize those videos there as well. And then once you get that set up, it's and save those, it's pretty easy to go back, and it saves the settings that you've got, and then we can have some predefined settings right here. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on the screening feature, as well as some of the chart settings as well. Oftentimes, I've mentioned this before, it'll ask you to save a lot of the times. If for some reason you've resorted it or you've added something different, it'll want you to save that. If you always just want to kind of leave it as it is, then you can just simply say, no, I don't want it, or I don't want to save it. I just want to reload that. Then it'll resave whatever default setting you've got. If you do happen to save it and it's like, dang, I didn't mean to do that, I don't know what I ended up saving, then it's typically just one of the sorts, or you can just go back into that Google Doc and take a look there as well. And that's usually the case. So once you've got these screens, now again, we've got the settings for the new buys. We've got the dollar price, the trigger, and in this case, some volume that are added into there. Now we're sorting these. One of the things that I wanted to show you on this that actually is very helpful is when you have these screens. Sometimes it's to look through all of these names and look through all of these all these just the stock names and the symbols is not as helpful as seeing the chart on that. So if I were to go, and obviously the buy, just everything that's in a buy, there's a lot of them right here, 644. So let me go into the muscle stocks group. Now again, the muscle stock settings are all right here, and the settings that you want to be able to follow to set those up are in that Discord room and under the screens. Okay, and then they're setting right here, and then you can go in and say, I need to have these settings. If you can't see these for some reason, then you just have to Just zoom in, go from 100 to 200, and just increase the size of it a little bit. I sometimes have to do that. My eyes are getting bad, bad, and those are too microscopic to see it. I want to be able to see these. Then I can compare. Then I can leave this view open, and I can go over to the actual window that is open and say, am I matching? Well, what's not matching? Let me adjust that. Let me make a change. Okay. You can always add when you click on this add drop down button. It's going to give you all of these choices, or you can just start typing whatever it is that you're looking for. And if I wanted some kind of performance or percentage change, if it's in there and it's and you're going to type that in, that's the information that you're going to get. So in this case, the muscle stock setting are here, and there's 156 stocks that meet that criteria. I'm sorting these by RSI. Okay, it's similar to the rank feature in the old Traders Pro software. And the other thing that I wanted to show you though is this little button right here. There's two. There's a table view and there's a chart view. If you click on this chart view, it's going to pull up the charts instead of the line item of the stock. And then here, I don't like the area graph. I want to go to candlesticks, and then I want to go to the 6-month time frame. Okay, now, and I can also change this setting here if I want a lot more stocks that are listed and just have that output. If I want real small icons to view, or if I want to have, maybe 3 or 4 icons, something like that, or if I want to have, just 2 different rows or 3 different rows, whatever the case may be. If I just want 2 big charts, okay, you can change that setting right here, and it'll just give you a little bit different perspective on these charts. Now it's going to sort those. Let's go in a little bit more. Let's go 3 by 3. Now let's go like this and scroll through. Even that's a little bit squished. Sometimes it messes up my chart because I'm squishing it in here so that it fits on the video. The other thing you can do is just the auto setting, and that is going to balance it out. And now what you're getting is the chart based on this setting, okay, the highest RSI listed with these criteria as well. And now I can look at the actual chart pattern of that. What it's not going to show you, obviously, is the red, yellow, green, but we know that these are all strong stocks in good uptrends. Okay, the chart patterns are going to be looking like this. They're moving from left to right, just like that, just like we want to see them. We want to see them moving this direction, moving this direction, moving this direction. Okay, so now we've got visually, and if you ever see, a lot of times these will pull in. If you get these where there's no activity, it's just these little dots along over here, that just means that the company has probably been bought out. And now the stock is no longer this company. The new company that bought this company has absorbed it, and that stock price is now the only one that's going to take over. And it sometimes takes a couple of months to get these cleaned out of the system. So when you see those, and you can see there's a lot happening, a lot of times when they get a buyout bid, you get these big gaps higher where you have, let me grab my drawing tool right here, where you have a like this, you get an open and then you get a gap. So this gap from whatever that was, 325 to 440. So a massive move. And a lot of times those are, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 100% gaps higher, as the buyout company is saying, we're buying this company for $4.40 a share. It doesn't trade any higher or lower than that, because why would it? If the new company is saying, if the new company has now given a fixed price, this still is tradable during that time period, but it does not make sense for anyone to trade it if they know the new company is just going to be buying it for $4.40. So you get these big flat price activities. If you're not unfamiliar with that, then I'd just bring that up right here. If you are familiar, then obviously you don't need that information, but they pull into the scans, and so be aware of that. That is the muscle stock group, and that is just this little icon, this chart view icon, instead of the table view icon, which is over here. Now, on the table view icon, there are also a few things which are helpful, which I like. Number one is if you just want to bypass, kind of go straight to the chart, if you right-click on the ticker and then open this chart, it'll take you directly to this setting. Let me do a different chart, since that was one of those buyouts. It'll take you to this chart perspective here, And if you want a little bit more information, you just click on the symbol. It's going to take you out to this longer perspective here. Now, this was a little bit different because it's going to give you all of these key statistics, company information, financial stats, news items. If you scroll down here, then you're going to get some of the technicals, the strong buy signals. You also get the ideas. This is sometimes fun. It's sometimes aggravating to go in and look to see what other people are talking about because the patterns just become messy and the charts become messy with a million indicators and it kind of can just become garbage. But it's there and it's a lot of times you can find something interesting. That's one of the values of TradingView is there's just a lot of information and there's a community in there of people putting different perspectives and ideas. Some are helpful, some are not. But the more information, the more knowledge that you can gain from perspective, in my opinion, is the best way to gather the data, to gather the knowledge, and then ultimately make your own decision. But if you're making your own decision off of just limited information, then it may not be as effective of a decision. Although, that being said, you can get analysis paralysis to say, oh my gosh, what's this guy saying? What's this guy saying? What's this guy saying? What's this guy saying? Okay, but I'm not overly interested in that, but I am interested in maybe some of the news items, just a quick glance at the financials. Are they making any money or not? Okay, you can see that. That may be a factor. A lot of these stocks are not making any money because they're still relatively speculative. Now, from there, if you click on the super charts or the full chart, that's going to take us out to the actual chart platform. Okay, so once you get out to that platform, then this is really, really the pilot seat. This is where you're actually going to be making some decisions, making some trades. So if you're comfortable with this layout, then if you're not, I guess I should say it this way, if you're not comfortable with this layout, change it so that you are comfortable. Okay, I like things very square, very simple. I want to see whatever time frames are effective. I don't want to have a million things just screaming at me on this chart. Although this may feel like it is, it's in my opinion, is quite clean for at least for what I want it to do. Remember that this is a tool, and the tool you've got to make it fit your hand, so to speak. You've got to make it fit the back of your truck, or make it fit wherever you're going to utilize this. And I use that example maybe as a construction worker that has a new table saw or a new drill or a new tool of some type. It's got to work. It's got to fit. If it doesn't work and fit, then you've got to maybe either just tweak it a little bit so that you're comfortable with it. Especially if you're familiar with using other tools or charting services, and it looks just a little bit different. I want to try and keep it as close to the traditional Traders Pro version, the old software in. And it's just a personal comfort zone. You can change that to whatever you want. One of the other things I wanted to point out here are some of these over here on the left-hand side, some of these drawing tools. The drawing tools, if you click on one of these and it opens up these boxes, you'll notice the stars right here. Okay, if you open up, I'm going to pull this out of the way. I like to keep it up out of the way, but these are the main icons that I use most of the time. So you can have those as your favorites. And if you click it as a star, then it's going to show up on your line. Okay, if I just uncheck that, you'll notice this one right here. If I uncheck that star, it's going to disappear. Okay, so whatever charting drawing tools you're using most of the time, then you can just click it on a star, and then you can have that up here. For example, if you're utilizing the box tool or the long short tool, the price range tool, all of these. There's a couple in here that I'm going to get rid of that I'm not using as much. But if you're like, gosh, where was that indicator that I needed to use? Where was that line at? And there's a lot of them. So if you want to get rid of that and you're finding that you're getting comfortable with certain drawing tools, then just select the star on that. So let's go back to the screens. Okay, so when we're starting out, and essentially this is the starting point as we're looking at market conditions. Okay, let me delete some of these now. It opened up a new window on each of those, which I don't want. Okay. what we want to have is we want to have these two perspectives. Number one, we want to have what are our market conditions. This is our big picture perspective. We're looking at the market as a whole. We're looking at the price pattern momentum of the market. The market in this case being the S&P 500. There's really no reason to use a full market index. S&P 500 is more than enough to get a good idea of what the market conditions are. We've got the daily time frame. We've got the 60-minute time frame. We've got our trend condition indicator here. We've got our momentum zone indicator here. And again, you can access those or add those to your chart. You just want to make sure, notice there's a little black box around the outside of the chart. If I click on this chart now, that black box, that is just specific to this window now. And if I wanted to click and add an indicator to that, then I would click indicators here and I would add that indicator on that. When you first are going in, if you want to add, go to Discord and go back into the indicators. When you click on these Fibonacci tools or momentum zone, it's going to take you out to the TradingView, kind of the explainer page. And down here, it's going to say remove from favorites, or it'll say add to favorites if it's not added. When you add that to your favorites, that's going to do is that's going to add that into your favorites on your indicator drop-down box. It'll show up as starred right here. Then you don't have to do search a little bit deeper for it, but that's also just a quick way to be able to get access to that setting. And market conditions now. So let's go through those. Let's come back to that. We'll talk about market conditions. Now, what we want to do is we want to know market conditions. Are we in an uptrend, downtrend, bullish trend, bearish trend, somewhere in the middle? That's affecting how we're allocating our capital towards each individual trade. Are we buying a full 2% or 2.5% or whatever our allocation is for that capital for that trade? Are we getting out a little bit sooner? Maybe instead of selling 25% of the shares at 20% in our trading plan, maybe we change that to 10% in our trading plan to sell 25% if market conditions are waffling a little bit or getting a little bit soft right here, or particularly in a nasty downtrend. Maybe we don't take a trade that day. Maybe we don't take a trade at all that week until we really decide how it is that we want. So that's at the trading plan level. Don't just come in and say, well, markets look like they're doing something. Well, maybe I'll buy something today. That's not a plan. You can certainly do it, but it just makes it more difficult to exit because you don't know why you're exiting. You don't know what the overall strategy is or what the plan is. So from here, we now want to say, all right, let's assume that we are bullish enough to take a trade, although it's really not. It's actually kind of a bearish situation right here where we have majority bullish at 9, but the upper end of this trend is starting to compress and consolidate. Okay, what that means is that we're just probably correcting. This is how downturns start though, but is it just a pullback in an overall uptrend? If so, more than likely, these few lines that are down here are not going to budge at all. They're just going to stay solid. You can see right here, just the distance between these are all kind of relatively uniform. We're compressing that trend, but the upper end of that trend is thinking about it. Okay, it's a little bit worried, or there's some indecision, and there's definitely some bearishness starting to happen. Now we can look at that. That's price pattern and price momentum. Then we want to look at what is the breadth of this price pattern on S&P 500. How many stocks are participating in this rally or this sell-off? In this case, we have 20. This 25 number represents 25% of S&P 500 stocks above their 50-day moving average. That means that 75% are below the 50-day moving average. Okay, if I were to move this in, you can see that this range, this is kind of replacing the buy-sell ratio, works very similarly when we get down into that 10 range and we get into this upper 10 range, 80 range. Then markets just don't sustain those levels. When we're really, really bullish, the price trend might continue, but the breadth is going to start to fall off. That's what's been interesting right here is we're seeing breadth really fall off, but we haven't seen the price activity fall off as aggressively as the breadth. Okay, so we've got what that means is we've got the stocks in the S&P 500 that are holding up have a big impact on the S&P 500. Probably your Apples, your Facebooks, your Googles, Meta rather, and this this is an indication that if those start to falter, then markets really could start to see some decent sell-off here. We're also seeing that in the Russell 2000. Then we can move into the VIX. So we're looking at momentum with just price momentum and using our trend condition. We're looking at breadth using the stocks above the 50 on the S&P, and then VIX is your volatility index. Are we compressing our trend on the daily? Are we compressing our trend on the 60-minute? Are we moving up? Okay, in volatility, we have majority bullish in volatility on the daily, majority bullish on the 1 hour time frame as well. Okay, if volatility is bullish, that is bearish for stocks. This has an inverse relationship. When VIX goes higher, stocks go lower. So if VIX has a bullish tone to it, then stocks will have a bearish tone to it, and it does. Okay, right here in the shorter term, we're moving lower, we're kind of flat. Those are our big picture market conditions to say, what do I want to do right here? Do I need to make any changes or not? And from there, we can determine then at the risk level, what kind of risk am I dealing with? Okay, now we want to try and find some stocks. So this is where our screens start to come in. We can go into our screener, we can pull in the muscle stocks group. We can start from there and say, okay, of these stocks, what are the new buys in this stock? So in that screen, we can come down. And again, the new buys settings, all of these screens that you're going to have inside of Discord, inside of screens, on the chart setting or off or on the screener page. Okay, the screener page, let me delete some of these. I got so many tabs open now. This is on the screener page. This down here is on the chart page. Okay, you have to set them up twice, which I don't love, but nonetheless, that's just what we've got to do, and it'll take you to, like I say, 2 minutes to set it up, and then it's actually kind of fun to be able to make some changes as you're looking at different criteria and adding different criteria and saying my core now is. I know what my core is. My core meaning these price indicator structure that are finding the stocks that have certain characteristics. I'm looking for characteristics in these screens. Okay. And then from there, we're adding in a trigger. The trigger here is when that crosses back up above this number. So we went from 100 and whatever that was, 50, 60 to 11. So now there's only 11 stocks that have new buy signals. Okay, from here we can do the same thing. We can click on that chart view, and now we're getting that single bar look that we want to see. We want to see uptrend, counter trend, confirmation bar, uptrend, counter trend, confirmation bar. Okay, and sometimes we don't get that. We get a gap higher, but these, again, we're looking at characteristics. The price patterns might be slightly different, but the characteristics should be very similar based on the screen criteria that we've got now. You've got AORT, nice confirmation here. Okay, so notice these bar patterns. All of these charts have this uptrend, consolidation, confirmation bar, uptrend, consolidation, confirmation bar, uptrend, consolidation, confirmation bar. That's exactly what we want to see. So now we've got to make a decision, okay, and say, well, which one of these should I buy? Okay, you can, from there, what we also want to see is I may take one of these stocks and I may take it and look for additional volume. So I may even say, I want less stocks than that. Or I could say, I don't want a stock that gapped higher and retraced back down. I want a solid confirmation bar on increased volume. Okay, so this is a great candidate right there. The next one down, that's not bad. That's not bad, but let's skip that for now and let's cruise through and see if there's anything that has a nice solid confirmation bar and big volume. Okay, solid confirmation bar, big volume. So there's really two: solid confirmation bar, big volume in the last 2 days right here. This one's not quite as exciting. I want to see, crazy volume. Ideally, that's 200 or 300 times bigger than the normal volume that is taking place on a stock. So there's two: OPFI. And then that's about it. So not a huge selection because we're in a downtrend. Markets are a little bit tougher. There's fewer and fewer stocks that are trying to get some traction right here. What I would want to do from here now I've got my general idea, just looking at the chart pattern. Now I want to go into and refine that a little bit, and I want to go into this setting right here. Not that setting, but I want to go to this daily setting. I don't want to save that. I'm just going to keep it here. Okay. And that, let me change it back now. So now I'm going to go here. Now this is going to add this chart pattern into the criteria that we've got set up. Okay, now in this case, I do have a buy limit order set up for tomorrow. So at the market open, that's going to trigger if the stock trades below 825 at the market open. Okay, big volume, confirmation bar, stop loss set at 722 in this case. Okay, so I can go in and I can double check my order. I can modify that order. It's going to open up my order window, my order ticket essentially. And from here, remember, I've got my dollar amount at risk. That's my 2,000. So if I have a $100,000 account, then 2% of that 100,000 is 2,000. Okay. From there, I'm also going to add a stop loss. So we're looking at these two numbers. We've done this now on the other trading calculator for forever. This is just a little bit different. I actually am getting to love it even more so. And that's, if you're feeling a little bit of disjointed between the transition of the one software to the other, just keep doing it. You just got to go in, and I'm going to try and do more and more of these videos of step-by-step process so that you can get familiar with it, because it's a little bit more of a learning curve here, but life is a learning curve, right? We just always got to be growing, always got to be learning, always got to be progressing. And in this case, we're just learning and focusing on a new tool that's going to give us just a lot more possibilities and opportunities to be able to find the right stocks quickly, set them up, know what we're looking for, set up our risk, and boom, we're done. Okay, once we really get really efficient with this process, then it becomes a comfort zone. Okay, once you know what you're doing, it's just a learning curve. Once you're over that, it's like riding a bike. You don't have to relearn how to ride a bike, or relearn how to tie your shoes, or relearn how to use a fork. Right? Those are things that you learn. Anything that you don't know, you have to learn it. But once you learn it, then it becomes as simple as that. So in this case, we just have to understand what we're looking for. In this case, we want to use this number here, this 250. Our acceptable range of portfolio at risk is typically 0.3 to 0.2. Okay, so anywhere between on a $100,000 account, this would equate to about $300. This would equate to $200. That's the risk that we're taking at the portfolio level. At the trade level, it's $250 and $2,000. Okay, and that's about a 12% stop. And you can see over on this other window. So on the 60-minute window, here on your settings, I've got these settings to show the dollar amount. On the 1 hour, on the daily chart, I've got these settings to show the percentage. Now, the way that you update that is, if I can remember here, is if we go to our window, back over here to this, to our trading. So you've got symbol, you've got the status line, you've got some other things that are not quite as irrelevant, the canvas, which is the whole picture of the chart, and then you've got your trading window. Okay, so notice that this one doesn't have my buy sell buttons. I don't need them on both windows. I've already got those right there. Okay, and here I've got my positions, the profit and loss, and I can adjust these if I want ticks or percentage. You're not going to need ticks. Ticks are typically for the Forex market, and stocks don't. I mean, they do have ticks, but they're not. It's just not that terminology that we're using. Notice that I've also got this location on the left. That's where you're going to find that. If I wanted them on the right, it's going to squeeze them over to this area. I didn't like that because it kind of covers up the information. I like to have them moved over to the left. And then on our bracket, okay, we can change that. We can have a dollar amount here. So notice this is money. If I change it to percentage, notice what that just changed to, 12%. So instead of having it as percentage, I want money on this one. This one is set to percentages, okay, and this one was set to money. So that's on the that's on this gearbox. That's on the trading area, the trading tab of that setting, and then it's down here, the bracket profit order percentage versus this one is showing money. Okay, and that's one of the settings there as well. So now we've got this trade set up, and that's it, right? It's going to set up our bracket order. Our bracket order is our stop loss. Now from here, if you're not setting up the trades inside of TradingView, now you've got everything you need. Now you can go out into your Schwab account, which is probably what a lot of you have, since most of you have used Thinkorswim or TD Ameritrade, and now Schwab owns all of that. And then if you can just simply say, okay, I'm buying 142 shares at the market, a limit price of 825 and a stop of 722, and set that up in that account. Okay, I don't think Schwab is linking to TradingView currently. If you're using WeBull, which I recommend, then you can link those up, and it's just a super cool, clean process to be able to do that. So now we've gone through that process. We're looking at, again, market conditions may say, if I'm a little bit more conservative, maybe I don't take another trade right here, but if I want, hey, we never quite know which one is going to be the one that turns into a sound hound, okay, or really just gives us a massive run. Some do, some fizzle, some move up a little bit, some move up a lot, and so that's a part of the wheel methodology, is continually adding into some of these trades and kind of diversifying daily across individual stocks and setting up these limit orders. We go in and the daily updates, that's what we do every morning before the market opens. About an hour before the market opens, we set up one of these trades. We look at what's been stopped out. We make any adjustments. We set up the new trade. And then we set up a limit order so that when the market opens, it triggers the order. It sets up our stop loss. And that's it. We don't have to do anything else for that trade for that day. So if you're have a little bit of time constraints, then using these kind of order parameters is huge. It's very critical to be able to allow you a little flexibility on the management of your portfolio. There's nothing worse and there's nothing more dangerous than just setting up a market order, not having a stop loss, just buying something, not knowing what your risk is, not knowing what your position size needs to be, not knowing this number. If you don't know what your dollar amount at risk is, then you're just gambling. Okay, it's not a systematic approach. You're going to do that until you get the one time that the trade position is too big, and you're going to get spanked. And so that's just the process of doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, that is if it's productive. If it's not productive, then change what you're doing over and over again. But if your results are continually based on flip-flopping, or I don't know why I'm doing this, or I don't know what I'm looking for, or I'm selling too soon, or I'm not getting in a big enough position, then you're just not following the trading plan. Okay, so in this case, that really is the core methodology, and it took us 30 minutes to go through. And as you go through that process, look for market conditions, go through the scans, set up your new buys, look for opportunities here. Am I looking for the big, a stock that has a price pattern? Now, we could be wrong on this one, okay? That happens. We could, and maybe we should have gotten into this one. That's the hard part. That's probably honestly the hardest part of the analysis, is deciding which one do I want to take. I can't take them all, and so you could say I just have got to go with the highest probability. And maybe from there, I can also go in and look to see at this level, what's my sector doing? What's my industry doing? Okay, this MATW it's a manufacturing stock. It's also in the cremation services, memorial type services, the death business, and so it's like, that's a business that is not going to, it's not going away, but it's also not super scalable unless we have pandemics or things, or baby boomers, and it's almost like a utility type play where it's very consistent. That might be attractive to understand it. That might be my next factor that I add in. I may also want to adjust some of these and say, these are, maybe I need to add even more volume, or maybe I need to add, instead of going from 1.2 on this, maybe I come up to 1.8. Okay, and let's add that and see. That drop, most of these have got pretty decent volume. What this is telling me is the relative volume. If I have 2 in here, that's telling me that these stocks, the volume for this day is twice as high as normal. Okay, so it's double the relative volume, double the average volume, and that's what I want. I want it to be bigger, and that, notice that dropped that down again. So now we're getting more volume. Now I can go back in and say, is there anything in here? Did that help my decision making or not? Well, I don't want this one. I don't want the gap and then the retracement back down. Although there's still nothing wrong with that. It just means that there's a lot of interest pre-market that pushed the stock up pre-market. Once the market opened, then you just have selling. Whatever the catalyst was to push that stock higher is still there. Okay, so but for the setup where we want the momentum, we want the obvious price activity moving higher during the day, ideally without the gap. And so those are that narrows that down, to OPFI really and MATW for those setups for that day. And again, that may be a scenario that you could look and see, maybe there's something in tech that I want, or maybe there's something in, you name it, that we'll be able to look for. One other thing to look at here is I've got it in the Discord channel. And the screens, it's down towards the bottom. It says other screens. There's a market screen and there's a sectors and industry screen. If you click on this sectors and industry screen, this is going to list the current sectors. And one fast way to kind of get a relative performance on this is to click on that performance and then do the 3-month performance like we've been doing on the screens for the stock here, where we've got our 3 months performance at 15% or 25%, really anything higher than 15, 20%. We can do that same thing for sectors and say, well, which sectors have been performing the best in the last 3 months? It's consumer durables, it's technology, retail trade. And then I could go into this as well and say, well, let's look at just some of these names inside of this group. It's going to be slightly different, okay? But you can also you can scroll through some of these stocks. Maybe you're looking for valuations. Maybe you're looking for dividends. Maybe you're looking for earnings. Okay, these scans, these buttons across the top are a quick way to do that. I could do the same thing. Performance in the last 3 months. Okay, here we go. These are starting to look familiar, right? Like muscle stocks, and this is a robotic stock that's been moving. Okay, fantastic looking stock. Deep retracement back to the 50% level. Okay, there may be an opportunity on a pullback trade. That's what we would want to see on a pullback trade. If you have a big uptrend, it's pulling back. Where's it pulling back? Inside of, is it in momentum? No, it's broken through momentum. So what's our next phase? We're looking for corrective zones now, counter trends. It got a little bit of a bounce right there at that 50% level. That may be of interest to start to look at for a purchase. Next week, I'm going to go over a little bit more on that buying process on some pullbacks, but it's not going to be a whole lot different. Okay, same thing here is we want to determine where is our limit price. If we go pre-market, we go limit price here. We have to may move that up. Say I don't want to buy it if you're inside of that range. I can set my stop loss here. Let's go into and set this number at 2,000. Okay, so now I've got $2,000 and my stop loss. And I can drag that stop loss down. Let's drag that stop loss all the way down below this level right here, okay, and see what it does. That put us to 433. That's too big. 0.44 is too much at risk. We want to go 0.3 to 0.2. Okay, so in this case, we've got to change something. So what do we change? If this is too high, and we've got to either now change our stop loss. Look where that stop is. That moved it to down 21%. That may be too wide of a stop, but it's a really volatile stock. It's a $3 stock, and it's crazy volatile. I don't want to get stopped out the same day I buy into it as well. So what I would adjust the position size. Okay, I've got to go down. I've got to go smaller, 1,500. That puts me down to 0.33. That's still too big. So I got to go 1,200. Now I'm at 260. Okay, so on a really volatile name like some of these, robotic stocks and these quantum computing stocks, the AI stocks, really anything that's coming into a muscle stock group or anything that's just really volatile. It doesn't matter. We're still focused on the risk side of things. I've got, in this case, 260. So now I've got a smaller position size. That's just the nature of managing risk. And so you may say, oh gosh, what if it doubles? Okay, I want 5,000 on the line. Okay, well, in order to put 5,000 on the line, you might get stopped out, and you have to prepare for that possibility of being stopped out. And if you do, in this case, it would cost you 1%. It'd cost you $1,000 unless you changed your stop loss. Okay, unless I moved my stop loss up higher. Okay, you can see as I'm tightening up my stop loss, it's changing that dollar amount at risk. And I may not be able to do that with that big of a position. Okay, I want to be able to have this manageable. Really, the key to consistency is doing this part of the trade setup the same way every single time, so that you're just understanding what your risk is. You understand this. I'm comfortable with that number on any single stock trade that I take. I'm comfortable. And I'm going to win some, I'm going to lose some, but I don't want to lose ever a scenario where there's a massive loss. Now, we've run into some where they gap lower and we're just naturally going to be dealing with a bigger loss than where our stop is, but that's why we have this number as well. Okay, pretty deep content, honestly, for today. That's a lot to digest in a little bit longer session. I hope you find value in it. I know that in transitioning over from one user interface to another, there's a little bit of time that needs to happen there. But that's my perspective on utilizing the setup, utilizing the system, finding some stocks, some quick ideas to look for at the sector level. We looked at that sector tab. Here, this is giving us all of the sectors now, and I can go to performance and I can scan that on whatever time frame I'm wanting, just to kind of get an idea what sector is leading. Electronic technology. Okay, let me go here. Let me go in. Let me look at performance on that for the 1 month time frame. Okay, you've got some stocks here that are doing some crazy stuff, 200%, 160% in the last month. Well, let's take a look and see, is there anything interesting there that I may want to look for? Is it pulling back into my muscle stocks or my new buy scans? Okay, in this case, it hasn't turned to yellow, so it's not gonna move it from a hold to a buy. It's not going to show up in my new buy scan. So in this case, I just want to look to see. It was a leading stock. It had a big move. Same story right here. There's a really nice looking setup for continuation of momentum on a pullback into the counter trend, into that corrective zone as well. Okay, it's, again, those of you that just take a little bit of time, go through, rewatch these videos until you're sick and tired of listening to me, which is probably already, but nonetheless, it's just one of the ways to kind of get through the learning curve. And I'll close on that note. Everyone have a fantastic day today.